a retired gardener stood on her patio staring at 3 herb pots she was ready to throw away. The basil leaves were the color of old paper. The parsley had barely grown all month. Even the mint, one of the hardest herbs to kill, drooped weakly over the edge of its container. After decades of gardening, she thought she knew exactly what she was looking at. Worn-out soil, finished plants. Time to start over. She had already priced new bags of potting mix. $18, $24, some closer to $40. With a trowel in hand, she tipped the first pot forward. Then she remembered something an older gardener had shown her years ago. The scratch test. Using her fingernail, she scraped the stem near the base. Brown on the outside, green underneath, alive. She checked another stem, then another. The same result every time. She wasn't about to throw away dead herbs. She was about to throw away living ones. Plant researchers confirm that mistake happens far more often than most gardeners realize. So, if the herbs were alive, why was the garden dying? The answer had nothing to do with the soil she was about to buy, and everything to do with a cloudy liquid she had been pouring down the drain every single week. The $40 bag of potting mix would not have fixed anything. Not because the soil was wrong. Because the problem was never the soil. Here is what the garden industry has never had a reason to tell you. Healthy soil is not dirt waiting to be filled with fertilizer. It is a living system. Beneath every pot and every garden bed sits an invisible workforce. Billions of bacteria, millions of fungi, microscopic organisms that break down raw minerals and deliver them to plant roots in a form they can actually absorb. Without that workforce, the minerals just sit there, locked, uneatable. In 1913, the Haber-Bosch process made it possible to manufacture nitrogen fertilizer at industrial scale. It worked, it spread, and within decades, the entire model of home gardening shifted away from feeding the living soil toward feeding the plant directly with chemical inputs. Not a conspiracy. An economic inevitability. There is no profit in teaching gardeners to rebuild what they already have underground. So that knowledge faded. Generation by generation. Meanwhile, gardeners kept spending. New soil, new fertilizer, new plants. Replacing what was never broken. Her herbs were alive, but the living engine beneath the soil had gone completely silent. What she poured down the drain every week was exactly what that engine needed to wake up. The liquid was rice water, not a product. Something produced every time a cup of uncooked rice is rinsed before cooking and poured away without a thought. Most gardeners assume it works because it feeds the plant directly. That is the misconception. Rice water does not feed the plant. It feeds what feeds the plant. The bacteria and fungi living in healthy soil do not consume fertilizer. They consume carbon, simple starches and sugars. When that fuel disappears, as it does in most sealed container gardens over time, the microbial population crashes. The engine goes silent, the minerals stay locked. Rice water reintroduces that carbon fuel directly into the soil. Field trials studying fermented rice water found it significantly boosts populations of a soil fungus called Metarhizium anisopliae, an organism that helps unlock trapped soil nutrients and destroys common pests like aphids and thrips from the inside out. Not by adding anything artificial. By waking up a system that was already there. Within hours of application, surviving bacteria begin feeding on the starch. They multiply. They begin unlocking minerals that have been sitting unreachable for months. And the plant starts receiving nutrition again, not because the soil changed. Because the key that was always there finally turned. But here is where most gardeners stop the process before it starts. Because there are 2 versions of rice water, and only one of them works. Fresh rice water and fermented rice water. They look almost identical. They are not the same tool at all. Fresh rice water delivers some starch to the soil. Fermented rice water delivers a living culture directly into it. During fermentation, beneficial bacteria, particularly lactobacillus, multiply rapidly inside the liquid itself. Most gardeners who try this and see nothing happen make the same 4 mistakes. The first is using it undiluted. Fermented rice water is highly acidic, pH between 3.5 and 4.2. Poured directly onto roots, it burns them. 1 part fermented rice water to 10 parts water. For seedlings, 1 part to 20. The second mistake is fermenting too long. 3 to 5 days is the window. Beyond that, the brew crosses into pathogenic bacterial growth. If it smells rotten rather than faintly sour, discard it and start again. The third mistake is tap water. Chlorine kills beneficial microbes before they reach the soil. Let tap water sit uncovered for 24 hours first. The fourth mistake is applying it once and expecting a transformation. Once a week, every week. That is the protocol. Rinse half a cup of uncooked white rice in 2 cups of unchlorinated water. Swirl for 30 seconds. Collect the cloudy liquid. Add a 1/4 teaspoon of molasses. Natural farming researchers have documented that molasses accelerates microbial fermentation significantly, reducing preparation time from several weeks to 3 to 5 days. Cover loosely and leave at room temperature. When it smells faintly sour, not rotten, it is ready. Dilute 1 part brew to 10 parts water. Apply as a soil drench once a week. For the first 2 weeks, apply every 5 days to rebuild the microbial population faster. No equipment, no expensive ingredients, everything already in the kitchen. The total cost of this rescue, from first application to full recovery, is effectively zero. Compare that to the $40 bag of potting mix that would have swapped a living system for an empty one. Days 1 through 3, nothing visible, but underground, the starch had already reached the surviving bacteria. They were feeding, multiplying, breaking the mineral lock the soil had held for months. Day 7, a faint greening at the base of the basil. Not dramatic, but unmistakably there. Day 14, new growth on the parsley. The mint had straightened. Day 21. All 3 herbs were producing new leaves. The soil smelled earthy, alive, the way good soil is supposed to smell. She had bought nothing. She had spent nothing. She had simply returned something the soil had been missing. Not through neglect, but through a century of advice that forgot the soil was alive in the first place. This is not a new discovery. It is a forgotten one. Farmers across Asia have used fermented rice water on kitchen gardens for generations, long before synthetic fertilizer existed. They understood what Justus von Liebig documented in the 1840s. Plant growth is governed not by what is abundant, but by what is missing. One collapsed microbial engine. That was the short stave in her barrel. Rice water was the key. If your garden is struggling right now, do the scratch test before you do anything else. If it is green underneath, the garden is not gone. It is waiting. Start the rice water protocol this week. 1 application. See what the soil tells you by day 7. And if you know a fellow gardener about to throw away plants they believe are dead, share this with them. It may be the most useful thing they see this season. Which herb in your garden are you most ready to rescue? Leave it in the comments.